All right, happy Father's Day. I wanted to thank everyone for being here, rabbis of the West Side, our family, our friends, our co-workers. We're honored to celebrate our son, Baruch Akiva, and in English, Akiva Max, becoming an official member of the Jewish people. Like all Jewish events in history, the Bris, of course, starts with a severe dose of pain and ends with, of course, a severe dose of food. Welcome to the tribe. Funny enough, I was in the bathroom just before the Bris. I have to do some jokes to warm this up. Guy standing next to me asks me, are you from Philadelphia? And I said, yeah. It doesn't look familiar at all. I say, he says back to me, like, did you go to Lower Merion Synagogue? I'm like, yeah, I did. How do you know that? He's like, is Rabbi Goldberg still the Moel? Does he do all the brises in Philadelphia? I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, well, he always cuts on a slant, and you're peeing on my shoes. I mean, when do you get a chance to do a Moel joke? Come on. Okay. I just want to speak briefly about the name of our son and the origins of it. As we all know, there's so much in a name. The Arizal says that Shem is from the Shoresh Sham, there, the place, the destination. So a name doesn't just encapsulate what we call him, but what we hope he aspires to. Our hopes, our prayers for the future. Obviously, Einstein and Spielberg and Kovacs were on our list, but that was a little too much pressure. But there's another side to this. So there's a future, but because Jews, at least Ashkenazic Jews, often name after those people who came before us. Remembering our relatives, the Bubbies, the Zaydis, the Pop-Pops, the Nanas from our past. Those who are no longer with us, but here in spirit, but who worked, who sacrificed, and gave everything to get us to this point. It's their personalities, and of course on the Popko side, there were definitely a lot of personalities, character traits, which we hope our little man will inherit. So a name not only connects the past, but also connects to the future. What was versus what will be. And just as a side, the word neshama, the Hebrew word for soul, if you look in the middle letters of the word neshama, you'll see the word shem, name. In other words, the soul of a person and the name of a person are somehow linked. So I figured I'd go through the names here. We've got a couple. So first, the Hebrew, Baruch. We're naming after Hindi's illustrious, famous grandfather, Rabbi Baruch Aaron Popko. The famous rabbi from Pittsburgh who, aside from being a master orator and visionary, an academic, a scholar, whose leadership helped shape much of modern American Orthodoxy, he actually also, interestingly enough, got Heinz ketchup to be kosher. So you didn't even know he infected your lives, and he does it every day. But Rabbi Popko, or Baruch Aaron, was dedicated to showing that Judaism can not only survive, but thrive in America. But one of the things that I learned through Hindi and through her father was the work he did for Soviet Jewry. As a kid, we would go to rally after rally in Philadelphia and Washington, and to me, this was the first time when we went for Soviet Jews, it was the first time where I felt Jewish peoplehood, the idea of Jewish identity. The fighting for freedom and the unity of Judaism, regardless of your religious anything, we came out and we rallied for the freedom of our brethren. You know, I still hear when we are leaving Mother Russia, it chokes me up. Little did I know that Rabbi Baruch Aaron from the Steel Town was one of the originators of this fight. He himself was born and fled from Russia himself and craved nothing more than the feeling of American freedom for his brethren. He made trips to Russia, spoke in shuls when it wasn't popular and frankly extremely dangerous. That chutzpah, that insatiable ability to say what needs to be said, to inspire, is what we want for our son, Baruch Akiva. He spent his life making sure that others knew what to care about and what to fight for. This Baruch, this blessing, which is what Baruch means, is what we want to bestow on him. It's no wonder that Hindi is obviously so special to so many of us in this room. She too fights and has an uncanny ability to unlock things, especially for me. She takes on the BDS movement, the Iran movement, my laundry, all while behind the scenes making this baby a reality, which is over a year in the works, simply because Hindi would not take no for an answer. She, like her parents and her grandparents, somehow light the spark inside all of us. All Pupkos do this, on topics and issues you didn't even know you cared about until they speak about them. And then all of a sudden you're walking out cheering. This is the yichus that I want. This is the real bracha. So we are blessed to have Hindi next to me and Akiva as our leader. The second person I wanted to name after is my grandfather, my mother's dad, Max Laurie, who we just called Papa. If you ever met anybody above the age of 45 from Bayonne, New Jersey, just randomly, mention the name Max Laurie to him and you'll watch their eyes light up. Sure, his title for 40 years was high school math teacher at Bayonne High, but he twilighted as the Jewish JCC youth group director, a tennis coach, the teen tour advisor, and a world traveler. He also had the ability to unlock things, but for him it was through unmatched gratitude and kindness. He had a certain grace, a certain warmth, and a certain smile that brought everything dignity. He'd thank every waiter, bus driver, and truly embodied Derech Eretz Kadmol Torah. Before you could be wise, you need to be kind. It's, as Papa would call it, the prerequisite course. He always carried a handkerchief around because he carried his heart on his sleeve, and inevitably, like my mom, had no problem telling their life story to complete strangers. He too lost his dad very early, and when his mother couldn't afford taking care of their 4 kids, she had to send them away. To feel alone, to feel unwanted, unappreciated. Pop-Up's life was spent making sure no one else felt like that. Zekla Gadol Torah. This is the most important thing. Rabbi Pupko always mentions at the Seder that his pops also used to say that we were once slaves, and the whole purpose of the Seder is to remember that we were once unwanted, foreigners in a land, and the whole job in this world is to make space for others. That's it. Papa Max also loved sports and math more than anything. I recall one time my mom said that Papa Max was leaving something in a safety deposit box for us. And it was for us when we were older. So I was like, this is going to be amazing. I mean, obviously I'm going to be rich. Like, safety deposit box, what could this be? So when we finally got it, we opened it, and it was a scorecard from the 1927 game when Babe Ruth hit his 60th home run that Pop-Up happened to be at. Numbers and baseball. These were his most prized possessions, only for his grandkids. He'd write letters to the New York Times sports section, thanking them for their sports of the times, and then debating every single point all at once. We'd watch sports together on his TV, and he'd always turn off the sound, and I would say, why are you turning off the sound to watch the game? He said, if you're at the game, you really want to experience it without somebody talking your ear off. This is how you really experience a ball game. And I'm so glad Hindi got to meet him to see what a truly righteous person he was. So our second baruch, our second blessing to my son is just taking 1/60th of the Max Laurie and wear it proudly on your sleeve. Okay, this is the sad part. The final name is connected to an answer. The final name is not connected to an ancestor, but somehow captures much of the feelings, emotions that Hindi and I have today. The name is Akiva. For those of you who don't know, Rabbi Akiva, he's basically like the essential Jewish superhero. He started with humble beginnings of nothing. He somehow got inspired when he was 40, and through sheer hard work became invincible. The master teacher, the master leader of the Jewish people, whose wisdom was only matched by that of his kindness and mercy for others. As he famously said, the most important rule of the Torah is to love your brother as you would love yourself. And Rabbi Akiva only started this, realizing his superpowers when he was 4 years old. Incidentally, my dad, who was not necessarily the Talmud Chacham, but always compared himself to Rabbi Akiva because he himself started jogging at age 40. And when he said, Seth, why don't you jog? And I said, I'm not 40, I got like 20 years left. So honestly, now it's a little shorter than that. But, so that's Rabbi Akiva. But as many of the people know of Jewish history, Rabbi Akiva also lived through tragedy. He lived with disaster, he lived with failure, and he lived with the ultimate loss. The Gemara tells the story of Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Akiva, who went to Jerusalem after its destruction. And they saw the holiest city in the world, Jerusalem, in ruins, the temple gone, and they all started crying. And they looked over to Rabbi Akiva, who started laughing. And they all looked at him and puzzled. Why are you laughing, Rabbi Akiva? There's literally foxes coming out of the Holy of Holies. How could you cry? How could you not cry? And Rabbi Akiva said, I laugh because there are actually two prophecies. First is that Jerusalem will be destroyed. But there's another prophecy, one from Zechariah, that says that the young and old, women and children will one day fill the streets of Jerusalem. It will one day be rebuilt. But I was worried, as long as the first prophecy hadn't been fulfilled, I fear the second prophecy wouldn't be fulfilled either. But now I see that the destruction has been fulfilled. It is certain that the rebuilding will be fulfilled as well. You see, Rabbi Akiva focused in the midst of the ultimate tragedy on the ultimate future, on the rebuilding, the resilience to move forward. And the Gemara concludes so poetically. They all looked at Rabbi Akiva amazed and said, Akiva nichamtanu, Akiva nichamtanu. Little Akiva, you have consoled us. Akiva, you have consoled us. And like Rabbi Akiva, we realized that our life wasn't over. It wasn't the end of the movie, but perhaps the next chapter, the sequel. So for Akiva, I know you're in slight pain right now, but we want you to know that your big sister, Ayelet, will always be looking out for you. She has given us and so many people in this room life-affirming strength. And now you've provided us the ultimate comfort of knowing that our prayers and the prayers of everybody in this room were not left unanswered. Akiva nechamtanu. Thank you, Hashem. Baruch Hashem for Baruch Akiva. And so on behalf of Hindi and myself, I just want to thank everyone for being here. For keeping us going for the last couple of years, our family, our friends, the Pupkos, the Fishers, the Smiths, the Jaffes, the Galenas. You've been literally unbelievable the last couple of weeks, nonstop. Rabbi Pupko and Mindy for driving in last night. Arna for driving in last month. And just to Hindi, as Rabbi Akiva says about his wife, everything I am and everything that I have created, my students, are all because of you. So thank you, Hindi. And just a special thank you to the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, who actually found Ayelet's mutation when we had no chance of having kids. The NIH said, give us 5 to 10 years, and your taxpayer dollars got it done in a year and a half. So thank you so much for making our dreams come true. What a Father's Day gift. Thank you.